2023 Atlantic hurricane season starts today, and the experts are predicting less activities for the period, which ends on November 30. To share more is head of the weather branch at the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Rohan Brown. Good morning, Mr. Brown. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Listen, the environmental factors are among the reasons for less active prediction. Elaborate a little bit more about that, and what's the general outlook for the season?
All right. First, let me start by saying less activity in terms of number of storms as compared to the past 5 years.
Yes.
So the activity for this year will be less in terms of the numbers over the past 5 years. However, the prediction is for a near normal, and a near normal season has about 14 named storms, of which 7 become hurricanes and 3 become major hurricanes. So in terms of that, we are going to be having a near normal season. But as we talk about environmental factors, there are 2 competing factors that will be dominant for this year. First, scientists around the world are predicting the onset and the development of El Nino during this summer. And simply put, it's a warming of the equatorial waters in the Pacific, and that warming has global circulation impacts. So for example, in the Caribbean here, we have strong wind shear activities, and those wind shear activities suppress tropical storm development. So the wind is going this way, then you have another wind going that way. You don't have the chance for the development of the systems. So you have shearing, and those limit the development of tropical cyclones across the Atlantic during El Nino periods. But on the other hand, we have above normal high ocean temperatures or sea surface temperatures at the surface, and also some depth below the water. And that heating of the water provides the energy that the storms need to develop. So you're going to be having those competing systems during the season, and that is why we have gone back down to near normal for this season as compared to the past 5 years where we would have had above normal seasons.
Well, does the less, having less rainfall, does it mean that how will that affect Jamaica? I mean, we're going through a period of drought now, and what does that really mean for us?
So with the onset of El Nino, you normally have less rain days. So the amount of rainfall, in fact, will lessen. However, the days that we do have rainfall, whether by a trough or a tropical wave or a tropical storm or hurricane, on those days, you're going to have stronger or rainfall that is greater in intensity and also longer duration. So even though you might have less rain days, but the days when you have rainfall, there are going to be heavy periods of rainfall, and those periods might be longer. And chances are the accumulation may be just as much as when you would have longer rain days.
So what about having less activities? Less active season, does it mean less rainfall as well?
So for the most part, yes, because you don't have the amount of systems developing to produce the significant rainfall that would occur.
Yeah, but we still can't put our guard down.
No, because this is the hurricane season. And between June and November, you have significant rainfall periods that are not even associated with tropical cyclones. So preparation and being prepared is what is required, especially during this time of the year.
Preparation is key. I mean, oftentimes we tell our citizens to be prepared, but them say hurricane not coming. I mean, that is a common, like a recurring decimal. I mean, but even so, what can you say to individuals who believe that we have less activities, less rainfall, it is okay to go about business as usual?
So, despite all the stats and that is out there, right? The significant numbers always won, because all it takes is the passage of one tropical system across the island or near Jamaica to produce significant damage to property and infrastructure. Also, the loss of livelihoods, and more importantly, the loss of lives. And therefore, we always have to be prepared, especially during the hurricane season.
All right, we're going to have a little bit more conversation on this particular issue that is relevant and also important at this time since the start of the hurricane season, which goes until November 30. We're going to come right back. We're talking to Rohan Brown, and we'll be right back after this. We're continuing our conversation with head of the weather branch of the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Rohan Brown. Let's talk a little bit now about the names, the forecast names, and what does that mean if one forms out there, which is it going to be strong, is it going to be weak? Taking into consideration that we look at the environmental factors before, we look at whether an active season means more rainfall or a less active means less rainfall, and we look at the sea temperature. So let's talk about the names now.
All right. So the official forecast is for 12 to 17 named storms. So we have between 12 and 17 storms that could develop. And among that, we're having 5 to 9 that could become a hurricane. And furthermore, 1 to 3 that become a major hurricane, right? Category 3, 4, or 5. Now, with 17 named storms, anyone could develop in, near, or around Jamaica. And therefore, preparation is absolutely key.
And as you said, develop, it could be a major storm, or it could be not a major storm, or a major hurricane, not a major hurricane.
Exactly. So it could be just a tropical storm, or it could be a major hurricane. But because we're a small island state, anything that develops near or around Jamaica will have impacts on the island, whether it's going to be strong winds, whether it's going to be storm surges, whether it's going to be rainfall, whether it's going to be flooding, whether it's going to be landslides. Those impacts do occur. And sometimes, even last year, systems pass way south of Jamaica, but they would have produced rainfall events that would have provided flooding and landslides and would have caused damage to the island.
Yes. Talk to us about your preparedness as we go into this hurricane season, the kind of partnership that your office has created with various agencies, and what's in terms of disseminating the information, how is that going to be done?
Okay. So the Met Service, all the forecasters in the Meteorological Service, as it relates to hurricane, are trained at the National Hurricane Center.
Yes.
So all our meteorologists and forecasters are trained at the National Hurricane Center. And therefore, we have a partnership with the National Hurricane Center where they are responsible under a WMO mandate or agreement for hurricane activities in the region. So we have that dialogue with them. So whenever there's a storm, we have dialogue, even before you guys hear about it, with the hurricane forecasters at the National Hurricane Center. We together decide whether the system will pass near, over, and we decide whether there should be a warning or not. And this is normally done by the head of the service. He speaks with the Prime Minister, and then that information is disseminated to the National Hurricane Center, and they would do a general hurricane release for the region. But we do our hurricane bulletins based on internal assessments because we're local. We know the local topography, we know the wind regime, we know the air of Jamaica, and therefore we do create our own bulletins that talks about the impacts that will affect Jamaica in itself. We are prepared in terms of we have the forecasters, we have the capability, we have years of experience because we have forecasters with over 20 and 30 years of experience in terms of hurricanes, and we also have the equipment. In terms of dissemination, our information goes out as per usual via email. We're going to introduce some other steps this year, but I will allow the director to talk about that later on in the season.
And so this will determine how we perhaps alert Jamaicans and what to look for. We know the flood-prone areas as a result of the predictions being made, and how quickly we get people out of these areas.
And one of our partners, the ODPEM,
yes.
And therefore we know the risk maps, we know the locations that are more prone to disaster, and therefore we can target those messages for those particular areas. Also, we have done partnerships in terms of with other entities as well, like the Red Cross and other entities, so that information...
And the Jamaica Fire Brigade as well.
Exactly, so that information can be disseminated quickly to individuals so that we can act, because it is the action. It doesn't care how good the forecast is, it is the actions of the individual. So easy to access information and easy to understand information so that persons can make the best possible decision to save lives and livelihoods.
Since the start of the hurricane season is June 1, and we're there now, I mean, how quickly will this information be disseminated to the nationals?
So whenever there is a system or the potential of a system, there is a operating system in the Met Service that is called the Severe Weather Orders that we switch mode in how we operate. And there are timelines, say 72, 48 24 hours timelines where different stakeholders will get different information, and based on that, so for example, the ODPEM might have information even before the general public knows about the system, because they are a critical stakeholder in terms of pre-positioning equipment and supplies. So we have an operating system that allows us to act according to timelines in terms of the impact of a system on the island. So therefore, whether it's 84 hours, 72 hours, 48 hours, there are those guidelines that allows us to operate efficiently.
And monitoring the systems out there will determine how the bulletin is disseminated.
Right. And we monitor 24 hours per day. So any time of the day somebody needs to call the Met Service, we're open. We're constantly watching the environment to see if there's development of anything.
Right. I know we've delved into this a little bit, but I want you to just hit it home for us, because oftentimes there are people who believe, again, that no storm not coming to Jamaica. We are a God-blessed country, but how important is it for us to be alert?
Listen to me, and I need to look at somebody. Again, all it takes is the passage of one system, just one system, over Jamaica, near Jamaica. And that one system, in terms of its impact, whether it is severe winds, whether it is storm surges, whether it is flooding, landslides, all that take is the passage of one system to create devastation to infrastructure, to property, loss of livelihoods, and also, more importantly, the loss of life. And therefore, we have to be prepared. We're in the age of technology. Your cell phone is there. Check your cell phone. If something is coming, be prepared and take the recommended action that is proposed by the authorities. So
that's useful information that we can always use, and thank you so much for being here with us today. Well, as I said, thanks so much to Mr. Ron Brown for sharing with us. It's all about the 2023 Atlantic hurricane season, this impact on Jamaica, and what will that look like for the Caribbean. On the other side of this break, a few tips to keep you safe this hurricane season. We'll be right back.